A reading from Mark's Gospel, chapter 15. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him they crucified 2 bandits, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "Ha, you who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him among themselves and saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "Listen, he is calling for Elijah." And someone ran, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, and gave it to him to drink, and said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come and take him down." Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain in the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom. Now when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this man was God's Son." When the soldiers came to the place called the Skull, they nailed Jesus to a cross. They also nailed the 2 criminals to crosses, one on each side of Jesus. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing."
Who decided on the order? Which of the soldiers thought Jesus would look best in the middle? Maybe the 2 criminals, caught red-handed on their last job, had fallen out with each other. Perhaps the only way to shut them up was to put the quiet guy with the Messiah complex in between. Soldiers, thieves, spectators, those hammering in the nails, those gasping at the visual spectacle. No one in this first Easter scene knows quite what they're doing. "Forgive them," says Jesus as the nails bite. Forgive them. They don't get it. Of all the low-life rogues to find the long arm of the law thumping down on their shoulders, these 2 nobodies get to hang right in the middle of history. They had never lived with Jesus, like Peter or Mary or Judas. Instead, they get to die with him. No chance to give him their lives, only their deaths. Which of us aren't as thick as thieves until Jesus Christ enters our field of vision? All of us watching, gasping, averting our eyes, wishing these weren't real nails, that this has not been our shift, hoping we can put this behind us, can move on, trying to find our words, not quite sure what we are doing, not knowing we could ask for forgiveness, not knowing someone else has.
Then the criminal said to Jesus, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "I promise that today you will be with me in paradise."
Talk about a deathbed conversion. What a chancer! Hanging, said Dr. Johnson, wonderfully concentrates the mind. And this is one concentrated criminal. Life has come into focus. Deep inside, something is finally understood. He doesn't join the soldiers in humiliating the broken God on the cross next door. After a life spent trying to be noticed, to be someone, he knows he is about to be no one, to be forgotten for good, a dying fly swatted into the floor of history. Yet some mysterious instinct tells him that maybe this one life on the next cross will notice him, will remember him. He will never be forgotten again. How did he know that weakness and vulnerability are invisibly tied to strength, to another kind of power? You will be with me today in a place of unimaginable harmony, a place where this strange passage called life will be known for what it is, a place we sometimes called paradise. You will be with me today, says Jesus Christ, as if there was no doubt about it, as if we can take him at his word. When we remember someone, we give them extra life. When Jesus Christ remembers us, we can never be forgotten again.
When Jesus saw his mother there, and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Dear woman, here is your son," and to the disciple, "Here is your mother."
What was his mother thinking, watching her son dying slowly, by degrees? I wish it had never come to this. I wish I could wake up from this nightmare. I wish I'd never had him. And what about the favourite follower? What's the point of being a disciple when there's no master? So much for being in the inner circle, when the circle is being bent and broken before you. So much for being special, when all your hopes and dreams are being drained in front of your very eyes. And what were the onlookers thinking? The ones whose curiosity had slowed them down to a halt to check out this first-century car crash. Event seekers, intrigued by what the small crowd were looking at over there on Skull Hill. What was going through their minds? Interesting piece of action by the looks of it. Always good to get the news first-hand. Nothing like the fresh gossip to add a bit of kudos. Which of us knows what any of the rest of us is really thinking? We can barely read our own minds, let alone those of others. None of us can predict the significance of any of our moments. None of us knows the role we are playing in the invisible grand narrative. Take the squaddies dicing for a dying man's clothes, salivating at the market resale value. Ringside seats for the cosmic drama, but too busy living to notice. We only know for sure what Jesus was thinking of. He was thinking of others, as usual.
Then about that time, Jesus shouted, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Not a word we use very often, God-forsaken. Is there a time and a place where even God has had enough of us? When even the immortal, invisible needs to take some personal time? Was God now hiding from Jesus? Or was it just that Jesus lost sight of God? When it feels like that, what's the difference? And if you believe that Jesus somehow was also God, this is a kind of self-abandonment, God taking leave of himself, forgetting himself, a kind of madness. As darkness falls, confusion rises. Voices nearby drop away, disappear. Spectators lose interest. Now, just the silent sound of hearts breaking, hope evaporating. Hello? No reply. Anyone there? Nothing answers. Just you and nothing. Forsaken. Jesus Christ abandoned to his fate in the middle of history. Foolishness, the mad epicenter of all things. Losing it, always losing it. You have to lose your life in order to find it, he had said.
Later, knowing that all was now completed, and so that the scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, I am thirsty.
Everybody is dying for a drink. None of us can survive without it. We live on a blue planet holding 325 million cubic miles of water, each of those a gigantic, overflowing cup holding more than 1 trillion gallons. Our bodies are mainly made up of water, and without it we shrivel up and cease to be. Our life runs dry. But water is not the only thing that brings us life. Each of us is thirsty for something more, something else. Refreshment to transcend our physical needs, to sustain us way down deep inside. Let anyone who is thirsty come to me, he had said. But now even this spring of life is drying up. Sweaty, struggling to breathe, bent over and bleeding. Thirstier than he has ever been, because we are dying of thirst.
Jesus shouted, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
He's not beaten, even when he's defeated, abandoned, desperate, parched, dying, but still, with his final breath, angry at the gulf between the way things are and the way things might be, shouting at the invisible. Forget gentle Jesus, if you ever remembered him. What can you do but shout when you see the distance between the way things are and the way things might be, and find yourself being strung from one side to the other? Howling your prayers, yelling your psalms, life screaming at death, hope screaming at cynicism. If you can't shout at God, who can you shout at? And if you think that your decibels can climb across the unknown, can be heard by love, and that love will answer, then you jump and fall into darkness, trusting only the hands of the unseen, the hands of mercy, the hands that always made everything from nothing, always do, always will. What other hands dare you fall into? Perhaps we are not abandoned. Perhaps we are not beaten, even when we are defeated.
After Jesus drank the wine, he said, "It is finished." He bowed his head and died.
That's all, folks. Show's over. Let's clear the area, please. Nothing left to see. Jesus has left the building. Who would have thought it would have come to this? History colliding with mystery. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word is now sentenced. Full stop. Close quotes, new paragraph. Whatever everything is now complete. Things seen, things unseen. Everything that was started has finished. Every beginning has found its loose end. All thoughts have been taken to their logical conclusion, and any others. At this moment, on this day, we have seen it all. God bows his head respectfully and dies. Everything dies. Life dies. Death dies. Everything is done, except love. Only love is not done. Only love will not die.